Good afternoon. My name is Roger Zaire, and today I'm going to talk to you about a topic that I'm very passionate about, and that is followership. I know that sounds weird since everyone really is focused on leadership. Over the years of me being in the military, and I've learned a lot about leadership aspects, the more and more I delve into followership, um, the more I start realizing that that is a topic that needs to be focused on and taught and educated on a lot more. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about what is followership. We'll talk about why it's important, how it impacts some of your organizations. We'll even dab a little bit into some of the history of some of the individuals who have developed some thoughts behind followership. And then we'll go into some of the attributes of followership, and then finally wrap it up with some lessons learned. All right, what is followership? Well, let's start with the definition. Karsten defines followership as a relational role in which followers have the ability to influence leaders and contribute to the improvement and attainment of group and organizational objectives. Now, the definition of followership has changed and it has molded significantly since back in the 1950s, where followership was first researched. Back in the 1950s, followership was more of a passive definition, something to the effect of followers are individuals who follow and do what leaders say. Now, since Robert Kelly in 1988 started redefining followership, followership is now seen as more of a partnership with leaders. And this is why followership is so important. Followership and leadership work hand in hand. Understanding and practicing good followership skills will make you a better leader. In fact, Kelly makes this point when he states that followership is not a person, but a role. And effective followers and effective leaders are often the same person playing different parts at different hours of the day. So many of these skills that you learn to be an effective follower are also skills that you will in turn learn to use to be an effective leader. Therefore, followership is important because without understanding how to be a good follower, you cannot become a good leader. Now, this has a significant impact on organizations. If an organization does not have great followers, then it may be impossible for leaders to achieve their organizational goals. The reason why is because it takes an effective team to be productive. Having effective followers will benefit your organization in many ways, such as crafting more effective leadership and even crafting a more innovative environment. Now, there are many experts on the topic of followership, but there are three experts that stand out to me, and that is Abraham Zelznick, Robert Kelly, and Ira Chalef. These three individuals created specific models on how to classify followers. Now, we are going to discuss these models because I want you to realize that each of these models since 1965 were created with the leader in mind. But as the evolution of their study of followership advances, each of these models more and more, they show the importance and reliance of followers. Let's first take a look at Zelznick. Now, Zelznick was a Harvard professor who developed a model of followership that's based on two dimensions of submissive versus control and active versus passive. Now, this was based upon his Freudian perspective. Zelznick was a professor of psychology, so his whole theory was really based upon the psyche of the individual being the follower and the leader. Zelznick categorizes followers into four categories: the impulsive individual, masochists, compulsive, and withdrawn. So as you can see, these categories really are the psyche of the individual. This model really was not used to learn how to be a good follower or learn how to be a good leader, but more of an understanding of the followers. Now, Kelly introduces a new concept in the 1990s. He mentions that followers are persons that choose to collaborate with a leader to achieve organizational goals. He also mentions that followers are responsible for 80% of organizational outcomes. This was the first time really that I read and noticed that people started highlighting the importance of followers over learning just leadership. This new concept started to shift from the archaic passive view of followers to more of an active, more of an impactful view of followers. Now, Kelly's model identifies followers in 5 categories: the conformist, the passive, pragmatic, alienated, and exemplary. The purpose of him placing followers into these categories is for them to learn and for leaders to learn where people are at and what their intentions are, and also how to become better leaders and followers. The conformist tends to lack initiative. They do not play an active role in the organization. They simply comply with orders that are given. The second category is passive. The passive individuals usually say what the leaders want to hear. These are those yes people, and they just are ready to carry out any order that is given to them. The pragmatic category is right in the middle of this diagram. These are individuals that are really committed to any group goals. They do just enough to get by, and they tend to be the mediocre performers. The alienated individuals are the people who are negative. They kind of have that negative energy. They're always skeptical of what's going on. They tend to question everything. And the final category is the exemplary follower. These are the individuals that are the problem solvers. They tend to work well with others. They reflect on the organizational goals, and they are not hesitant to bring concerns to their leaders. Our final expert is Ian Shalev. Now, Ian Shalev developed this type of typology in order to highlight more of the significance on followership within the leadership process. Now, what's very interesting is Shalev did a lot of studying on the Holocaust. And as he started studying the Holocaust, he really wanted to delve into the question and find the answer to why would people follow Adolf Hitler and do some of these atrocities. But in short, Shalev proposes that followers should be morally strong and work to do the right thing when facing challenges that leaders place upon them. So as you can see in his diagram is broken up into 2 categories. The first category is how much a person will challenge their supervisors. And the second category is how much they will support their supervisors. So he breaks things down into 4 categories: the individualist, resource, partner, and implementer. Individualists are marginalized by others and they are willing to speak up. Resource, they do just enough to get by. They tend to be obedient and they lack resistance to any real challenge. A partner, they take responsibility for themselves, and they fully support the leader and they're willing to challenge the leader when necessary. And the fourth and final category is the implementer. These are individuals that tend to be valued by the leader. They get work done, but they fail to challenge the leader when necessary. Now, as we looked at some of the models of followership, it's important for us to understand that all followers or great followers have certain attributes in common. So to become a great follower, you need to understand and practice some of these attributes. Now, Professor McCollum identifies 8 followership attributes that lead to great followership. These are judgment, work ethic, competence, honesty, courage, discernment, loyalty, and ego management. Now, the 3 I really want to highlight are 3 that really hit home to me. Number 1 is judgment. It's very important for a follower to understand the difference between following something that they don't agree with or following something that the leader is doing that is just absolutely wrong. Another attribute I think is important to highlight is courage. It takes a lot of courage to stand up to your supervisor when you know that they're doing something wrong. So it takes a lot of courage to lead up or manage up, and it takes courage to follow, especially when other people don't want to follow. And the last attribute I would like to highlight is ego management. It's important for an individual to follow for the right reason. You follow to get good performance or to achieve specific goals, not to be recognized by everyone. And it takes a really good leader to develop an organization that will recognize hardworking individuals who have control over their egos that are really mission focused. Now, I would like to leave you with a couple lessons learned and a couple takeaways. Number one, sometimes followership is needed to better the organization. Now, I've witnessed this when my commander stands down from his leadership role and he listens to the experts or the followers under him. It's a great example of that. Another one is followership can make us better leaders. I don't know if you've watched it, but I love watching the show Undercover Boss, where all the CEOs work for 2 weeks with all the followers, and after every episode, it's always the same thing. The CEOs now have a better vision and better ideas of how to lead their people. No matter how much experience you have of being a follower leader, there's always more to learn. Followers and leaders tend to use some of the same skills just in different ways. And the bottom line is learning how to be a great follower is a prerequisite of becoming a great leader. I did my followership assessment on my current squadron, the Geospatial Intelligence Squadron, using Kelly's model. I noticed that about 10% of individuals within our organization are the go-to people. So these are the exemplary followers. About 30% of individuals are the passive followers. These are the individuals who kind of avoid that conflict, but they do take the challenges that are given to them. Half of our organization, I would say, are the pragmatic followers. They see the job as kind of a day-to-day thing. And then I do know that there are alienated and conformist followers, but I don't know many of them. So I decided to put 5% in each because I do know they do exist. Some people complain and some just stay quiet. And as for my personal assessment, I consider myself to be an exemplary follower. I've had many years of experience learning and practicing communication and problem solving. I tend to work well with others and always try to make my organization better than when I left it, or than when I arrived. It's not always easy, but I do feel that I have a good grasp on when to be a leader and when to step in also as a follower. The current skill that I'm working on is leading up. Now, this is a very difficult skill to perfect as it takes a great deal of tact, discernment, self-awareness, and courage, but it is something I enjoy learning and is something that I know that I will perfect in the future.